Eddie the magic monk. Eddie the magic monk. Eddie the magic monk. Eddie the magic monk.
Hey guys, Eddie the Magic Monk here. One of my Instagram followers asked me a very interesting math question. I guess this is probably university first year or maybe high school final year level for trig identities. If you are not sure about trig identities, probably this might be a bit hard. But basically, we've got an equation here: tan bracket a plus b, tan bracket a minus b, multiplied together to give you 1. And the question interestingly says find all values of a. So they don't mention b at all, which means b can be whatever you want. Okay, b can be 3, b can be 7, as long as both b's are the same. Whatever a value you find as the answer has to fit this equation no matter what b is. So let's say you said that a is 3. Okay, if you said a is 3, let's say you said a, the answer is 3. Then 3 plus 7, let's say b is 7, 10 bracket 3 minus 7 has to equal 1. You type that in the calculator, it has to equal 1. Obviously, it won't, because that's just a very bad guess. Okay, so let's now get to actually doing it. So what we need to do is to use some trig identities to break this up a little bit, to change it into something else, to try and simplify it into an equation that we can solve. And the most obvious one is tan theta equals sine theta over cosine theta. Okay, you probably have a list of trig identities somewhere. If you don't, you can probably Google it. Actually, I'll show you how to do that. If you go to Google, all right, and you just go to images, you just go trig identities. You can see I've Googled some already. Use any of these pictures. Okay, they'll probably come up with some good ones. So I'm going to be using this one in a second, but I'm just going to do the first part here. So I'm going to replace tan theta now with sine theta over cos theta. So sine bracket a plus b over cosine bracket a plus b. Okay, so that's this part here. Now let's do the second part, times sine bracket a minus b over cosine bracket a minus b equals 1. So that's using this. I've broken this up a little bit, which is good. Now the second trig identity I'm going to use is called sum and difference identities. You can see them here. I'm just going to copy it out. So using these trigonometric identities, I can now replace what I have here using these longer statements. Okay, so sine bracket a plus b is the same as sine bracket x plus y. So it's now going to be sine x is a, so sine a cos b plus cos a sine b. So let's write that out. So sine, I'm just going to write down x is a and y is b so I don't confuse myself. So I'm just going to copy this out using this. So sine a cos b, and we got a plus, and then we got cos a sine b. Okay, so that's the top left of the fraction. So we got cos a plus b, which is down here. So now I have cos x is a again, cos b. Okay, now notice how this is a plus minus, this is a minus plus. So if it's a plus here, then it'll be a minus here. If it's a minus here, it'll be a plus here. So because it's a plus here, I'm going to write minus sine a sine b. Okay, then I have times. Okay, then I'm going to copy this out. Sine bracket, oops, not copying that, I'm copying this. So it's sine A cos B, because it's a minus here, it'll be a minus here as well, minus cos A sine B. And then the bottom is going to be, it's a minus here, so it'll be a plus here. So it'll be cos A cos B minus, plus sine A sine B. Okay, so I've written all that out, still equals 1, obviously. Okay, so now I'm going to try and simplify this even more. If you guys remember this equation, a plus b squared, a plus b times a minus b equals a squared minus b squared. So if you guys remember this equation for expanding, that matches what we have here, where this is a and this is b. Okay, this whole thing is a, this whole thing is b. A plus b times a minus b. Right, we have a again, we got b again. So a times b, a plus b times a minus b is a squared minus b squared. So I'm going to write a squared, which is sine squared a cos squared b minus b squared. B is that, so it's cos squared a sine squared b. Right, so that's a, that's b, and this is a squared, this is b squared. Okay, and then the bottom, we now have cos squared a cos squared b minus sine squared a sine squared b. Right, because we have a minus b, a plus b, again, gives you that, okay, equals 1. So how do we simplify that? Let's now put what's on the bottom on the other side. So I have sine squared a cos squared b minus cos squared a sine squared b equals, I'm putting what's on the bottom on the other side. So it's cos squared a cos squared b minus sine squared a sine squared b. Okay, what's on the bottom is now on the other side, and I can simply try and simplify this. Very hard to simplify, but shouldn't be impossible. So I'm now going to use another trigonometric identity. I'm not sure if you guys remember this one. Cos squared theta plus sine squared theta is equal to 1. Okay, you can also rewrite that as 1 minus sine squared theta equals cosine squared theta, as well as 1 minus cosine squared theta equals sine squared theta. If you guys remember how that works. So now I'm going to use that to simplify this, which will now give me I'm just going to pick some of them to simplify. Let's now pick, it doesn't matter which one you pick actually. Let's do that one. So sine squared a is equal to 1 minus cos squared theta. So let's put that in. 1 minus cos squared a. And I'm going to copy down this cos squared b. Okay, and let's now, because I have a cos squared b here, I'm now going to get rid of the sine. So it doesn't matter which one you get rid of. You'll just end up with the same thing. So let's get rid of that. So it's 1 minus cos squared b. Okay, I'm just going to leave the right hand side for a bit. I'm just going to work on the left hand side. So this, if I expand it out, it'll become cos squared b plus minus cos squared a cos squared b. I'm going to expand this out. So now that's minus cos squared a plus, because two minuses become a plus, plus cos squared a cos squared b. Okay, so working on the left, this will cancel out with this. So on the left, I simply have, actually, I'll keep that there. On the left, I simply have cos squared b minus cos squared a. Okay, and on the right-hand side, let's now work on the right-hand side. Let's just pick. It doesn't matter which one you pick. Again, I'm just going to pick that one. So it's 1 minus sine squared a cos squared b minus, and then here I'm going to pick, let's say this one, sine squared a 1 minus cos squared b. Okay, so now I'm going to expand that out. So I have cos squared b minus sine squared a cos squared b minus, so I'm just expanding it, sine squared a plus sine squared a cos squared b. So again, this will cancel out with this. So on the right hand side, I have cos squared b minus sine squared a. Okay, on the both sides of this equation now, okay, both sides of this equation, luckily I didn't draw over my own head, both sides of this equation has a cos squared b. So I'm going to now take both, minus that off both sides. So I have negative cos squared a equals negative sine squared a. Obviously negative on both sides, I can get rid of that. And then I can now move cos squared a onto the other side. 1 equals sine squared a over cos squared a. Okay, so sine squared a over cos squared a is sine squared a over cos squared a equals 1. So that's obviously the same as sine a squared, sine over cos squared equals 1. Okay, that's the same thing. And then to simplify that even more, I can write tan. Actually, let's just square root both sides now. So it's sine a over cos a equals 1. Because I square root both sides. 1 square root is 1. And then I have tan theta is 1. Okay, but obviously when you square root both sides, so I shouldn't skip any steps. So square root. Okay, so now you get rid of that, which means you probably need to put in plus minus 1. Right, because when you square root 1, you could get a plus or a minus. So it's actually tan a equals 1 or tan a equals negative 1. Both sides you got to try and cater for. Okay, so now it's very simple now how you solve that. You just go a equals inverse tan 1 or a equals inverse tan negative 1. Okay, and you can simply put it in the calculator to get your first answer at least. But it should be 45 degrees. So let's now try put that in the calculator. Let's just type calculator into Google. Okay, so you go inverse tan. Let's put it in radians. Inverse tan 1. Right? So 0.785. Which is the same as 45 degrees. All right, let's go. Inverse tan. Inverse tan 1. All right, 45 degrees. Okay, and then inverse tan negative 1 inverse 10 is not working well. -1 is -45 degrees. Okay, so if you guys remember the unit circle, how the unit circle was made up. Okay, so you got 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180, 270, or you can have 0, up to pi, up to 2 pi. Okay, so 45 degrees would be here. Right, so that's another 45. So 45 is the same as pi over 4, because 180 divided by 4 is 45. Okay, so at this point, you got whatever the opposite value is and whatever the adjacent value is, opposite divided by adjacent is 1. Okay, because tan theta comes from sine theta over cos theta. So sine theta is this line, cos theta is this line. Sine theta divided by cos theta is 1. So the angle is 45. Sine 45 divided by cos 45 is 1. Now, at this point, because opposite is going down, at -45, you would also have the same thing. But because you would have opposite is negative, so it's negative number divided by positive number, adjacent is positive, so that's why you have -1. So, but because we want the answer, if you remember back at the top, the answer has to be between 0 and 2 pi. So it's 2 pi minus 45, 360 minus 45. Okay, or it's the same as, so this is 2 pi, which means halfway through here, it's 2 pi minus pi over 4. Okay, which is, what's 2 minus a quarter? Two pi is 8 pi over 4 minus pi over 4, which is 7 over 4 pi. 7 over 4 pi. Okay, but you can't forget that this will also give you the same answer as this. Okay, because you got positive, opposite, negative. Positive divided by negative is also negative, so it'll give you the same value. So you need to go pi minus pi over 4. So that's the same as pi minus pi over 4, which is pi minus pi over 4, 3 pi over 4. And then here you would get the same answer as this one, because you have a negative opposite, negative adjacent, negative divided by negative is also positive. So you would have, what would you have? Negative pi plus pi over 4. Which is 5 pi over 4. Okay, So these are your final answers. Pi over 4, 5 pi over 4. Let's just copy that down. Copy this bit down again. And check that out. Okay. So we got answers. A equals pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, 7 over 4 pi, 3 pi over 4. Now, these are not in order from smallest to largest. If you want it in order, then you sort of need to go A equals pi over 4, and then you got 3 over 4 pi, and then you got 5 over 4 pi, and then 7 over 4 pi. So these are your final answers. So I'm now just going to pick one of them just to make sure that it's correct. Okay, so B, choose a number for B. Think of any number you want. Let's just say 16. All right, doesn't matter what you pick. So 10, I'm going to pick one of these. Let's say, I'm going to say this is A. 3 over 4 pi plus 16, 10, bracket 3 over 4 pi minus 16. I'm going to see what the answer is. So the quickest way to actually type this in is actually to just go to Google and type in 10 bracket 3 divided by 4 pi, 3 pi divided by 4 plus 16 times 10 bracket 3 pi divided by 4 minus 16. Just type it in and just see what it equals. And it equals 1. All right. So there you go. That's the answer. These 4 values are the answers. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.